made way more than what I've invested.
Hello, everyone. Oz Konar here with Business Lending Blueprint. I have an amazing guest here, Keegan Palmer, with me. He is a part of my community at Business Lending Blueprint. He's been bragging about the deals that he's funding recently. So I reached out to him and I said, "What's going on, man? Can we chat a little bit?" He said, "I would love to." So I'm glad to have him here today. What's going on, Keegan?
I'm doing good. I'm glad you're having me here.
Yeah, definitely, man. So can you tell me about your business right now, your website, and what it is that you focus on as a business loan broker? So first of all, anyone who might need your services, they know where to find you. We'll also find your contact information below this video. If anyone is looking for the type of funding that you specialize in, well, they know who to contact, since definitely you get stuff done.
Okay, perfect. So my business primarily focuses on working capital, so that'd be merchant cash advances, and as well as unsecured bank loans. That's the main thing I try to focus on, along with some equipment financing and commercial real estate loans. That's the main things, but the very foundation is working capital, right?
Working capital, okay.
Yeah.
Who's a good fit for that? So who should reach out to you? Who do you help?
Real estate developers are good. Some restaurants, as well as some trucking companies as well. That's tend to be the people I help the most, I should say.
Nice. Okay, so 3 different categories. What brought you to the Blueprint? Can you kind of walk me through the whole process of you deciding to become a business loan broker?
I've been in insurance and investments, so financial services, for over a decade, right? So that's what I was doing. I was doing life insurance and investments, and I was doing that for quite some time, probably for a good span of 5 years first. Then, I kind of had a moment where I was like, well, I don't know if I kind of still want to do this. So I ended up doing some other things. I dived in corporate America again, like just kind of, doing jobs as a manager, a trainer for a healthcare call center. So I did that for probably about 2 years. And, just kind of was just going through jobs. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Going through different jobs. And I did sales because I'm not the type of guy that likes traditional in the office, always, going to meetings in the morning, dealing with, that's just not me. I've always been the guy that kind of wants to work. If I can work remote, I would want to work remote. If I could, travel and make money, that's always been my thing. So 2 months into my entrepreneurship, I was struggling. So I went back and, I just said, I kind of decided, like, listen, if you're going to do insurance, you got to do this thing full, right? So I went back in for one-ditch effort. And I'm going to be honest, I started to make some money, started to get myself together. And I'm like, and it was through knocking doors. It's kind of like door-to-door insurance sales.
Yeah.
I don't like door-to-door for anything, but I did it. And, at that moment, I just said I wasn't going to go back to a job. That was for me. I've been through the whole thing. And it was at that time, while I was, doing that and kind of getting myself together in insurance, that I had somebody that was working on my credit, right? So I kept asking him, because he always told me all the stuff he was doing in real estate and all these things. So I was like, you know what? I got to do something different, right? So my biggest question to him was, hey, what else can I do? Because I'm starting to get myself together, but I want to find something that I can maybe pour money into so I can get some money back. What do I do? So I kept asking every single time I was there. He didn't really give me anything. And then eventually he was like, hey, I'll leave you with this. I used to do something called, merchant loans in the past. I need you to look at merchant loans. That's all he told me. He didn't give me any information. He didn't say, hey, Oz is the guy, nothing. So automatically my mind just went crazy. I just went online. I started to become this nerd. And I was like, merchant loans, what is that? Oh, I can make 15% doing this. Oh my, there's merchant cash advance. And there was so much information out there and I had no clue where to start. I'm like, well, do I go here? And how do I sign up? And then my next thing is there mentors out there? That's all I said. And so I was like, let me just go on YouTube. Surprisingly, you were the first person that popped up. You along with some other people, but you gave the most clear direction. And I just kept watching for like months, like different testimonials, like the one we're doing right now.
Right.
I was just like, wow, this seems realistic. He's not selling me a dream. He's just telling me the truth. Hey, this is what you have to do if you want to be successful. And I was just like, okay, you know what? I just made a decision at some point. I was going to do it. I was kind of putting it on the back burners because I was, kind of doing my insurance thing. I was like, well, I got a little momentum and I don't want to stop and, do this again. But it wasn't until COVID took place that reality set in. Now, it was me and a friend that was, doing insurance. And when COVID hit, the knocking of the door stuff went out the window. And then something my mom said, hey, Keegan, I know this sounds crazy, but why don't you hop into that business loan thing and look at that?
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, but let's like me starting from scratch. And I'm like, well, look, I'm not going back to a job, so I'm gonna figure this thing out. So it was me and a friend in the beginning. And I was like, hey, I have some money. Let's pitch in and get this course for BOB. He kind of gave me the idea of, well, what about this? Well, what's going on with this thing? I'm like, listen, I've been looking at this guy for months. He's legit. He's the real deal. And then, he kind of watched some of the things that I think after that whole thing happened, he just decided to go in. And that's how I got involved with BLB.
That's an awesome story, man. Yeah. So, your journey is like super entrepreneurial, right? So you a dude having a job, he hates it, but you're itching to do something else, but the comfort of the job is sometimes very difficult to let go, right? Because you just, without noticing, weeks pass by, you're getting paid. But on your end, what worked for you is that it wasn't like a traditional job. You had these chargebacks and clawbacks that you had to take care of if the customers left, right? Well, that hurts. I remember those days. Like if a customer leaves because you think that you got this customer, you signed him up and all that stuff, and boom, a month later, they take the money away from you. That leaves some marks, right? So that's not fun.
I was probably one of the best people to hold on to the policy. It's just that you couldn't prevent it.
You can't. Yeah.
It was a whole 9-month process. So I think it was either 6 months or before you can actually be out of the chargeback arena. And it was just so long. I had to keep that going. I'm like, come on. I gave you everything. How can I predict that some couple months down the line, an unexpected thing like COVID would happen?
Yeah. That was unexpected for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we had, like you, it's interesting. Before COVID, we usually have a ton of people who are kind of watching us from a distance, who are from the insurance industry or from the real estate industry like yourself. But it's just very difficult sometimes. It's just a mental decision, right, to make that move. But once the COVID hit, we had a flood of those people coming to the Blueprint because they were on the sidelines when they noticed that, well, what the job that they're relying on is kind of gone at that moment, for at least for a while. We had a lot of real estate people, mortgage brokers, insurance people come join the Blueprint because then they finally figured out that, this is actually recession proof, or even like what we're going through, like the pandemic proof, right? Which is scary. And that seems like that's what happened to you. It's not like you're failing at what you're doing. You were successful, but entrepreneurs, they itch for trouble almost. They want to do something else, and you're kind of priming yourself by paying to set up an organization because when people don't have any skin in the game, they have really very low motivation to succeed, right? Because if you get everything for free, they're like, you might. I personally have a lot of free courses that I got. Many of them I didn't even open up, honestly. That's just many people. You got to have that kind of threshold, established, so you feel like there's an obligation to do it. So it seems like you've been checking us out and finally made a decision to move to this side, and I can see that kind of worked out for you, did it?
Right. Yeah, it did.
So let's talk about it. You just brought us to this point of you finally deciding to join the Blueprint. So what has happened since you joined?
So getting started, it was. I understood everything. I love the idea. You gave a good structure to set everything up, right? Being that you don't want to just be in one area. You want to be able to offer all things, but specialize in a particular area, right? And I always kept that in mind. My biggest thing when I first started, though, was like I wanted to be everything, right? It was so hard not to want to do every product. So I became the generalist, I think, and not the specialist, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to just do everything. So that kind of killed it out because I didn't know what direction I wanted to go. I was just, hey, maybe we should do this. I first said, let's do startups, right? And then startups didn't work. And then I said, let's do something else, right? And then that didn't work. Like I wanted to do commercial real estate badly, so I dived into that area. And yes, granted, there was a lot of people coming in, but the amount of time it took to close one and I know you said that, and I know I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't being a good student. And something told me at that moment that I needed to go back and relearn everything. Because obviously what I was doing was trying to, I wasn't following the system. I was just trying to create something, right? So I went back and I said, you know what, we just need a specialist. Once I got the right things together, I said, we're going to just focus on something. What can I do right now and focus on that will just get me the results that I need? And I just immediately, came up with working capital. People always need, additional capital. I found that I do better with more established companies that have a little bit of a cash flow. So I said, you know what, merchant cash advance could be my lead in, right? Obviously, and then, we'll bring them over to a better product once they are more, they're doing better, right? And that's what the other things are for. And I realized also with the equipment financing and commercial real estate, they all kind of worked hand in hand. Like at one moment, this person may need a property and I could help them, get them into a commercial property.
Yeah.
It is kind of all works together. And especially if I work with real estate developers, they would also need equipment at some point. And I could be that solution for them as well. So it just kind of all worked together for me. At that moment, I was like, you know what, this is where I'm going to leave this. I'm not going to jump into nothing else. I've done this already. Just keeping not just learning the basics and the fundamentals that you provided us, but keeping my mind open to other things that I could fill the gaps into. So, and that's kind of what led me to where I am today.
That's awesome, man. You touched on a lot of great points. First of all, it's great that if someone just comes in and does $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month, but we gotta think about this as a long term. You're starting a business, right? So there's a lot of things that's going on, and some people like take their time. Some people invest in it, but they're not sold on the business just yet. Or a lot of times what happens is they join and they want to kind of create their own sub strategy on how this is going to work. Right. And I encourage everyone who's thinking about becoming a business loan broker, don't think of this as just a side gig. Yeah, sure. Can you make a few $1,000s here and there? Of course you can do that. Can you wait until you quit your job or you can do this full time? Of course you can do that, but you're not going to get rich if you're just doing this on the side here and there, right? So you're going to get rich when you have repeat customers coming back to you and you specialize in at least a couple of products. And I think that seems like the transition that you've gone through from beginning, right? So when you join, obviously people want to jump on it and make like 100 grand. But, then people say, you know what, I really like this, but let me what if I do this and just kind of go that route and come back. But all of that is not really lost time. It kind of builds that foundation slowly without you noticing it, right? One of our best examples is Salih. I interviewed them recently. I'm going to put the link up there. When he joined, he said something very interesting. He joined our mastermind too. He's like, hey, Oz, I probably will not fund any deals for the first 6 months. I'm like, wow, that's not a super great commitment. Like, why do you want to wait 6 months? He's like, no, it's not that I don't want to do it, but I want to build a very strong foundation so I can become a lender. I'm like, wow, okay. And that's exactly what he's doing right now. Like fast forward a year from now, because he knew that it was going to take some time for him because his goal was kind of up there, right? Not like, hey, I want to make $5,000 a month. No, I want to become a bank, a lender, so I can just build wealth. And he's working on like a $23 million deal right now with like a coal company. You wouldn't think that coal would still be around, but it is actually. So it's, connecting investors and all that stuff. So everyone has their own style. As long as you stick around, honestly, and you just keep that commitment, which you've done, which brought you here, like you and I are chatting right now. So I don't want to go through your last post. We can put it on the screen. So what's been happening recently? Seems like things are shifting a little bit and you're doing well. So can you kind of walk us through some numbers?
Okay, perfect. So for last month, right, the numbers that you ultimately saw, I found some people in my market that I've worked with. So eventually somebody that I helped in one area before, he referred me to a lady that needed startup funding for her daycare business, right? So she just said she needed about between 30 and 40, but she could get more for working capital. That would be great. I ended up getting her 75,000, right? And she was excited. She was, happy. She was, singing my praises, which I was good. I was just happy that she was happy, right? That was my main thing. So that's where that came in. We got, 15%. I was able to get for the success fee. I get 7% out of that 15%.
Okay.
To that number that you saw there, the 5,000, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of them. Now for the ERC, I actually know somebody personally, and you said the network with other professionals to see
Keegan,
if they
before you talk about your outcome on the ERC, many people might not even know what that is, right? So it's a sort of great product actually, but many businesses are not even aware that that exists. So I do know that. So I'm glad that actually you use that product to share with us what you're going to share in a few minutes. So what is ERC? Who's that a good fit for?
Okay, perfect. So during the pandemic, when it first got introduced, there's two things that was introduced: the PPP, which everybody hopped on because that was the most popular one, and then the Employee Retention Tax Credit. That's what it is. And pretty much what that allowed them to do, it was in the beginning when it was first introduced, you can either go for the PPP or you can go for the ERTC. You weren't able to do both. Well, obviously, as time went along, Biden changed that. But the Employee Retention Program, just to kind of answer your question, I'm sorry, I don't want to dive
okay.
too much. It's really meant for business owners who had employees that they stayed open during COVID. The government was giving them back tax credit for remaining open during that time period. So if they had employees, they stayed open during COVID, whether they took a loss or not, and continued to pay their employees, this is their time to get back a tax credit, right? And they were giving more back in 2021 than they were in 2020. So that's kind of where we've seen some of those numbers and where they came from, just to answer the question.
Okay. Right? So a lot of these business owners are not aware of this credit because they employed and kept employing people. They are entitled to this, but there's a process to get it. And it's kind of complicated for them even to know about the existence of this. People like you help businesses get access to that credit. They can claim that. And by doing so, obviously you generate income for yourself. So now let's jump to what that deal was like, what the numbers were.
All right, perfect. So I helped a consulting company, right? They needed some capital. They were paying employees the entire time. They needed some additional work capital to continue to expand. Now, obviously, there was other products that they didn't feel too comfortable with. When it comes down to, we have the MCAs, we have the other unsecured loans. Honestly, that wouldn't be a good fit for what they're looking for, right? So my automatic thing was, well, because through what you taught us in the beginning, right, to really build out our, I guess you call them soldiers, I forgot the name.
Foot soldiers.
Foot soldiers, right? You pretty much connect with people in your market that are, are other professionals, and you kind of try to build a working relationship with them so you can provide them referrals and they do the same, right? I ended up connecting with a CPA, and we already struck a deal on. He was already doing ERCs for his clientele, and I was like, hey, how about we strike a deal that I get paid a certain amount out of that, and I would provide you the clientele, and he said, sure. And that's how we came about that. So I got out of the deal, he charged, I think 10. I added, it's 5% of mine. So it's 15% total, right?
Nice.
So when they get their ERC or tax credit, right? So I, of course, connected the dots with them. The numbers came up to, I don't have it, so I can pull it up, but he got about 304 thousand back from all the stuff that he spent in payroll, right? In tax credits. So out of that 304,000 or so, which I'm not giving the exact numbers.
Yeah,
right?
It's okay.
I got 5% or 15,000. So that was the commission that I earned on that deal, right?
Awesome.
So that's how that works. Just to kind of put it out there.
Yeah, it's an amazing product, man. Honestly, that you actually follow, for those, obviously, if you're not in the blueprint, you're not going to know this, but we have a whole module on how to build strategic relationships. And I call it, strategic relationships with generals and foot soldiers. Generals are people with higher impact, like CPAs and, bank managers and financial advisors, anyone with a big Rolodex of other businesses, bookkeepers. And Keegan just followed that process pretty much to connect with a CPA. Some of the CPAs are informed about this tax credit. Some of them they know about it, but they're not really doing anything because they think it's going to be a lot of work, right? Because they don't want to get involved. But him partnering up and telling the CPA, hey, I can do this. And, you know, what about like we build a partnership that just worked out fine. That's one of the ways of using what I call the borrowed authority. So CPA is an authority figure in the eyes of his or her clientele, right? So the clients trust CPA. I trust my CPA because, well, hopefully he knows his finances, right? This is the same situation. So instead of him going to client directly and trying to explain this product, going through the CPA, I'm sure made it a lot easier for them to understand, oh, holy cow, this is a tax credit. This is legit. And we need to claim this. And that ended up becoming a pretty large credit. And then as a result of that, it ended up paying you a pretty large commission. So that's very smart. And imagine having a few of those relationships in place, things work out a lot smoother. So you don't feel like you're a hardcore salesperson trying to pitch people on a right that they already have, they don't know about, right?
Right. It wasn't the same thing as me trying to get them into a product they may not think they need, right? It's something different. This is money that they've already spent and they're getting it back in a tax credit that they're entitled to. You know, so yeah, I definitely, you know, it was not as much of a sales process at all. It's really like, wow, I got accepted. Yes. You know, this is what we're to, you know, be expected. And, you know, we had to wait a few weeks for it, but it came through. And I did quite a bit of other clients that, you know, I haven't talked about yet. We have to wait to see what goes with those, to be exact. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, once you do one of them, then it's relatively easy to keep repeating the process, right? That's usually what happens in our community. Like someone funds their first deal in one of the funding options, like startup, then you immediately see them kind of going after it because then the motivation kicks in. Holy crap, this actually does work. So let me just go do more of that, right? So Keegan, where do we go from here? Like, what's your goal with this business? What are you trying to accomplish? Obviously, you're doing well right now. I'm sure you probably do know about our BAMO structure, right? So the monthly goal setting and what you're trying to accomplish. So where are we going to see you in 6 months, a year from now? What are the goals for 2022?
So my goal for 2022 is definitely, I'm going to shoot for $250,000.
$250,000? Okay, nice.
That's the goal. I mean,
and are you planning to hire people, or you're planning to do this on your own with your current structure?
Well, I have one other person. I'm planning to hire at least overall 3 other individuals. So I'm looking for a bigger office. I had a bigger office initially for about a year and a half in. But it was small. It was just a COVID office, I call it. But you know, now I'm moving on. So I'm looking for a new location, looking to hire a few more people to make my process easier because things are becoming hectic now. Like a lot of people are reaching out to me and saying, hey, I need you to do this. And I'm like, I can't do everything. So, you know, I'm trying to train some other individuals and I'm taking it from there. My ultimate goal, though, is to become a lender, to be honest. So, you know, it's a work in progress, but I want to, of course, continue to build my reputation, clientele. So when that day does come, you know, they can look back and say, okay, yeah, this guy for sure. If he's starting a lending company, I know it's going to do wonders for us, right? So, that's just a sneak peek on what I'm trying to do.
I think that's the secret to expanding your financial resources. I think that should be every loan broker's goal at some point to become a lender. Because think about the commissions that you're making right now. What if you can keep most of it, right? And that I think that would be very lovely. And we have about a dozen people or so in our community who took that route after doing what you're doing. Like keep funding deals, you learn more about the industry. Then you start meeting people. I was at an event recently, one of our members, which I didn't know he became a direct lender, honestly. Like he was talking to me about what to do with the money in his bank account. So he accumulated close to $1 million through direct lending, right? Just lending nonstop. Mm-hmm. This guy is a beast. And again, I didn't even know that he was actually doing that. He was a part of the mastermind. He disappeared for a while and came back and just came to New York City just to see me in person and just deliver the good news. And he brought a staff with him and all that stuff. Like he's growing the company. So as an outsider, people do not know much about this industry, right? Look at your story. Like you didn't know this existed until your friend told you, hey, and he kind of gave you a half-ass answer on what this industry is. Let's go figure it out, right? And you did a lot of the work on yourself. that gives us a lot of power. This is growing, but many people do not even know of the options that we have access to. Many people don't even know the tax that you're talking about. Like, it's out there for people to claim it. They just don't know that it actually exists. Or real estate options. People think that they just need to go to Wells Fargo or Bank of America, but they don't know that there are other options. Same with the working capital that you help people get, right? So many people are not even aware of the existence of this business, and people like yourself who kind of go through the process and understand it and start applying it, you see a positive shift in your life. So are you happy right now? Are you satisfied that you made a decision? What's been going on in your life?
Well, I'm definitely satisfied with what's going on. As far as, my mom and my close family members, they're like, I just can't believe this little thing you were watching on, on every time I came over your place. I can't believe this worked. Are you for real? What exactly do you do again? They never really know, but I'm like, listen, it's this. They're like, oh, okay. But they're just, the different talks is like, it's really good. It's satisfying. They'll even refer me nowadays, like, hey, well, my son does this, or my brother does this. So yeah, and it's been good. And honestly, I get to do what I always wanted to do. Sometimes I don't want to be in an office. Sometimes I just want to be traveling. And I can be on the phone and talk to clients. It's great. It's the same reason I got into trading, right? It was the idea of me being able to be anywhere in the world and make a difference or make money or, provide for my family. So it's always but now it's like everybody takes my calls. It's like, hey, what's going on with the funding guy? How are you, man? Hey, come by. I actually helped the restaurant. And every time I go by, it's like, it's love. It's, hey, don't worry, drinks are on me. It's a different world for me. So it's like,
it is, man. That's a great point. I don't think there's any better business than to sell money, because that's what everyone wants. At the end of the day, we're going to spend a lot of our lives working on whatever we're working on our craft, on our business and all that stuff. So it's important that we actually enjoy what we're doing. Like, many people, as you know, do stuff because they must do it to survive. And they're not really doing it to improve themselves to their best version out there, which is super important because as far as we know, we only live once. And I mean, you got to make it worth it, right? Look at your situation. Like, your parents are curious as to what's happening with this guy. He's got an office, he's training somebody, he's going to be hiring someone, making money. I remember my first check, it was $4,000. I took a picture and sent it to my mom. Mom was like so happy. Moms are always happy, right? They want to see you do well. And $4,000, she couldn't wait until I get back home and talk about what it is, because my commission checks were like $120, $150, $180, and seeing like a $4,000 check was like out of this world. Like, my dad used to make that much in one month, right? So coming from that background, seeing that, and how people, like families, get super excited when they see a family member succeed, and that's exactly what's happening to you right now. So I don't want to take a lot of your time, but obviously a lot of people are going to be watching this. Would you suggest them to consider this opportunity as a viable option for them to either build wealth or quit their jobs? So what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, I say 100% you should do this. I mean, if you're thinking about it on the sidelines, I don't think you should be thinking anymore. I mean, you have there's enough testimonials out there of people that are, they tell their story. And I'm telling you, these aren't made up. He didn't pay me to say these things, right? But I'm telling you, if you're thinking about it, you should 100% consider this. This is a viable option. I've seen other programs out there, and they're charging a whole arm and a leg for what we're learning here, for the amount of money that they charge. It's worth it, every dollar. I mean, I've made way more than what I've invested.
Man. Yeah, that's a great point on the testimonials. Honestly, like, sometimes I get people saying, hey, man, it's been a few months. Why don't you have another testimonial video? I'm like, I honestly do not want to bother my members. Like, if someone sees all of this and they still do not think that it's real, it's okay. We just can go different ways, different paths, and they don't need to believe. But it's when we have like 500 something testimonials on Google and other testimonial places, and a bunch of videos and all that stuff. And if people cannot see that Keegan is an authentic person and is not like a paid actor, I don't know what else I can do. Like, I would need to throw you out there in person so they can touch and feel you, I guess, to make sure that you're real. But hopefully this makes sense. Obviously, this is not for everyone. This is not get rich quick scheme. You got to put in the work, like what Keegan just said. But at the end of the day, you're going to put in the work anyways. It depends on what you're going to put in towards that will build, your future, right? Since we're going to do the work anyways, why not do on something that's going to pay you dividends in the long term? And, you're going to find an industry that you're going to get super excited about, especially if you're entrepreneurial. So hopefully that makes all sense. Anything else you want to add, Keegan, before I let you go, buddy?
No. I mean, just if you're thinking about it, get involved right away. And do your research, yes, because I expect you to. But
yeah.
Once you've done that and you've got all the information you need, it's time to take action, right? Because there's a time for learning and there's a time for action, right? And now there could not have been a better time to be in this industry. Couldn't be.
100%. 100%. And on the research, we definitely tell everyone, do your research, but do not use that as an excuse to not take action, right? Usually that happens. I'm doing my due diligence. Well, it's been 6 months. Like how long? And you're obviously using that as an example to not take action, whether with us or not. But I want entrepreneurial people are only successful when they take action, right? So that decisiveness will make a difference, because time is something that we don't know how much of we have left. So if Keegan didn't start, if he was starting right now, he would have lost the past 2 years. Now he's starting building. Right now his focus is at hire more people, grow in the company. So whether you work with us or not, just do not buy into that mindset of, I got to think about this forever. That just never works well for entrepreneurs. I mean, Steve Jobs wouldn't have built the company if he was just thinking about it instead of building it in his garage, right? If you look at success stories of the people, one common theme is that they did whatever they needed to do, obviously, to do their research and find out if the company is legit, but they took action. And that's just what matters at the end of the day. That would be my one piece of advice that I can give you from my personal experience for those who are watching it. But Keegan, I mean, it was a pleasure definitely knowing more about you, man. Let's stay in contact. But thank you for doing this. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate it.
All right. No problem. You take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.